Hi guys, let's talk about the healer class a bit. Sadly, one thing that we see way too often is healer who play as if they were DPSs and who burn pretty much all their power bar trying to do damage. Just like the controller, we can't really blame them because the game essentially teaches you to play as a DPS. When you start from level 1 to level 10, you're stuck playing DPS, and that's okay. It allows you to learn how the game works. Sadly, once you reach level 10 and you have access to the healer role, there's nothing in game to actually explain to you how to properly play a healer role. So I see a lot of players who either cannot know how to play a healer, or even worse, the worst offenders are probably those who try to play what is now known as battle healers. Essentially, there's this sort of subclass of healer that decided to call themselves a battle healer and that try to do DPS more than they actually try to heal. I guess they find healing boring and they want to do damage like everyone else. Sadly, pretty much every battle healer I've ever seen are very poor healers and barely do any damage. That would be that much of an issue. The problem is that they burn a lot of power to try to do damage, and they pretty much end up doing barely any damage at all. And when the time comes that we would actually need some healing, well, they can't because, oopsie, they burned all their powers trying to DPS. That when the time comes to heal, they have no more power to do actual healing. And way too often, after burning all that power trying to do damage, when you look at the damage they do, they barely do any damage at all. Way too often, I'll see one of those battle healer, and then when I look at the scoreboard, my controller does more damage than they do, and I don't even have a battle controller. I have a very typical controller that gives power, that does debuff, and that does crowd control. I don't even try to do damage all that much, and still I end up doing more damage than a lot of those so-called battle healer. And again, they burn so much power and they barely do any damage. So it would be so much more efficient if they would just focus on healing. They would burn a lot less power, and they would actually be able to keep the group alive. At least technically they should be. So burning all that power, they don't really manage to do damage all that much. What they really manage to do is that they put a lot of strain on the controller. And giving power to a group, as a rule, is a bit easier than it used to be. But there still are a lot of group that burn through power like crazy. And when you have, and already if you have a bunch of DPSs who burn through their power very quickly, it can be challenging for certain controllers, especially with all the groups that want to run with only one controller. If there's two of you giving power, it's not too bad, but way too often you end up either being the only controller in the group, or you end up with another controller that doesn't really give power. So either way, you're very often you end up being the only one needing giving power to the group, and then sometimes you'll end up with DPSs that will burn a lot of power. And if you have a healer on top of that who also burns a lot of power trying to DPS, holy crap, that puts a lot of strains on the controllers when that happens. So if you really want to play a battle healer, fine, but please make yourself an armory for your battle healer and play that when you're playing solo or something, or maybe duos. But when you're playing alerts and raids, please make yourself an armory which is an actual healer armory. And also another thing that I see often is that healers will it's probably linked to the battle healing thingy, is that healers will have let's say maybe two powers on their loadout that actually does healing, and the rest of their power will be powers with the intent of doing damage. The problem is that some of the healing powers have a pretty long cooldown. So sometimes they'll cast a one healing, then they'll cast the other healing, and then when you tell them we need a bit more healing, oh well I can't, I'm on cooldown, because they only have two powers that actually heal. Ideally, have your whole loadout with powers that can heal. The healer is the one who can keep the group alive with his healing. So you need more than just two healing powers in his loadout. Ideally, you need the whole loadout to be able to heal. And there's a few reasons for that. The first one, as I mentioned, is that if some of your healings are on cooldown, Then you have your other healings that allow you to heal and keep the group alive. And the second reason is that some heal are situational. There are some healing powers that you will use only in certain situation. So for example, you have heals that will heal yourself and just one other player. Or there are heals that will heal yourself and three other players. Or there are heals that will heal the whole group. So if pretty much everyone in the group needs a heal, then you cast your group heal. But if only one other guy actually needs a heal, then you cast the heal that heals yourself and that one other guy. Or if about half the group needs to be healed, then you use your heal that will heal only half the group. So essentially, you need to be able to learn to use a proper heal at the proper time. But for that, you need more than just two heal in your loadout. You need healing powers for every situation. And then as you play your healer, you will learn when to cast your group heal. You will learn when to cast the one player heal, and you will learn when to cast the proper heal at the proper time. Also, another thing that I keep on seeing happening is that there are healers who will wait and who will wait and who will wait to heal, and then by the time that half the group is almost dead, then they will barely start to heal. But very often, by the time they're casting their heal, halfway through their heal, half the group is already dead. So there's this weird habit or strategy. I'm not sure how to qualify that, where healers wait and wait and wait, and as if they try to heal at the last minute. The problem is that sometimes they'll heal 2 seconds too late, and half the group will be dead. I'm not sure why they wait so long before even starting to heal. Maybe they're trying to conserve power and they don't want to overheal. That's possible. But at the very least, there, you should always have your heal over time going. Again, if you're worried about wasting power, when it comes to the healing over time, don't worry. Keep your healing over time going. If unless you don't have a controller, the controller should be essentially giving you your power over time. So there's the power over time that comes in every 5 seconds. So whatever power you will use to cast your heal over time, you will get it back quickly enough, so you won't really waste anything. So even if you don't worry about over healing with your heal over time. Ideally, you want to keep your heal over time going and going and going, and never stop it. But when you see the health of the group going down, don't wait until the group is down to 20% or even 10% or even worse. Sometimes I'll see they'll wait until the group is like down to 5% before starting to heal. Usually by the time the group is down to 5%, it's too late. By the time you will be done casting your heal, half the group will be dead. So ideally, when you see the health going down to 50%, it would be a good idea to start healing at least a few of the players in the group. Again, I'm not sure why they wait so long before even starting to heal. It makes no sense. The only thing I can think of is that maybe they are worried about overhealing. Um, in case you don't know, overhealing is essentially casting healing powers when no one in the group actually needs it. So when everyone's health bar is full and you see the healer casting heals, that essentially doesn't heal anyone because everyone is already full health. That's overhealing. Essentially, that's casting more healing powers than the group actually even needs. But when the group is down to 20% or even 50%, don't worry about overhealing. You can cast at least a few heals that will not be considered overhealing. Either your smaller heal or your heal that will heal only a few players. Don't wait for people to be down to 5%, because by the time you start casting your heal, if they're down to 5% and they get hit one more time, they'll be down before your heal even comes in. So there's no reason to wait that long. And even at 20%, sometimes it's already too long. Some attacks can hit pretty hard. So if you wait for people if you let people go down to 20%, sometimes a single attack can take you down. Even at 50%, it's a risky thing. At 20%, sometimes it's already too late. And 5% is crazy. So at the very least, the healing over time should always be going. There's no reason why the healer cannot maintain the healing over time going and going. And whenever anyone in the group gets a bit of damage, the healing over time will heal them back a bit. And then as needed, you start casting your one player heal, your three player heal, or your group shield. Uh, Personally, I'm not a big fan of the healer group shield. Uh, Essentially, I'm used to the shields from the controller, which are much more stronger than the healer shields. So whenever I use the healer shields, I always feel like I'm wasting my time. So usually I will use the healer group shield only if there's no other powers that I can really use. But if usually if there's another power, another healing power that I think that would be more useful than the group shield, I'll go for that. But if there's really no other power that I think that are better than the group shield, then I'll settle with the group shield. I hope this made some sort of sense. So again, ideally, the role of the healer is to keep the group alive. So have a loadout filled with healing. At worst, maybe have one or two powers like the group shield, or one or two powers that don't really heal the group, but have at least a loadout well supplied or well stocked with healing powers. That is what will keep the group alive. Don't worry so much about doing damage. Again, I see so many players worrying so much about doing damage that they end up not doing the role that they're supposed to be playing. So as the healer, you're supposed to keep the group alive. So you need healing powers to be able to do that. And you also need your blue power bar to be able to cast your healing powers. Again, if you wasted your blue power bar to try to do some damage with your powers, again, when the time comes to heal, you will not have the power to do so. And as a healer, you do so little damage with your powers anyway, that using your powers to try to do damage is literally a waste of power. So focus on healing instead, and let the DPSs worry about doing damage. So focus on your role and on keeping the group alive. And I guarantee you, if you do a good job, once in a while people will tell you, "Hey, good job, healer. You kept us alive." That doesn't mean that the other players cannot help you. Sadly, another thing we often see is that we'll see players standing in a pool of fire, not moving and expecting the healer to keep them alive through that. Sadly, that happens way too often. And I would suggest sometimes people will not heal the guy and let him die in order to teach him a lesson. Sadly, in my experience, the lesson usually they learn is that they have to kick the healer because he's not doing a good job. So ideally, ask them to move out of the pool. But if you let them die to try to teach them a lesson, odds are they'll kick you out of the mission. So ideally, players should move out of the pool of fire, or they should block at least a little bit, and they should have a bit of survivability on their own. Like there's no way they cannot have a personal shield or things like that, or a supply drop. But at the end of the day, the responsibility of healing the group and keeping them alive pretty much falls on the shoulders of the healer. So ideally, you should start doing that. Only once you do that, then can you expect other players to start doing their part. So if you do a good job healing the group, and then you see that the guys are always standing in a pool of fire, or that they're never blocking or stuff like that, and then you can start mentioning it. But to begin with, you have to heal them. So again, I hope this made sense. So thanks for watching, guys, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.